What's up, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. I thought it would be nice to change things up a bit, so I am recording this from my dining room. I have the windows open, so we got this nice natural lighting. That over there is my garden that's growing a variety of... what's on there? Peppers? Mostly peppers and some cilantro and some other things. Eggplant emojis as well is growing on there. But yeah, I thought it would be nice just to change things up a little bit. And I wanted to make this video to, I guess, give my commentary in response to something that I saw on Twitter, which is the place that I always go to when I find interesting things that I can make content about. And so this post is no different. This person does not... I don't know who this person is. Maybe they know of me. I don't know. I don't think that's relevant. But in any case, I'm going to read you what this person posted, and I'm going to give you a response. And hopefully this will spark some dialogue, and maybe we can have some nice, rational, good faith discussions in the comment section. At least I can hope. Okay, so this is what the post says. It says, "I think this will be the last time I ever vote Republican. One way or another, it always falls back to one major flaw, and that is that the right is religious, and they want unprecedented levels of control over your life. They haven't changed at all." And so someone responded, "And the left doesn't want the same level of control? Question mark. Interesting rebuttal. And so here's a funny response to that as well, and then I'll get to what I want to say. This person says, "You're cutting off your nose to spite your face. Yes, lots of Republicans are bungholes," I like that word, "but as someone who's mostly a libertarian atheist since before I was 10, the bungholes on the Republican side want you to follow religious rules, and they never been successful. On the Democrat side, the bungholes want you controlled at all levels and are happy to see you terrorized with no ability to even fight back. They'll throw you in jail for wrongthink." Well, this person who is obsessed with bungholes, they have a point. And so what do I mean by this? Well, first of all, let's address the initial claim that you're never going to vote Republican because Republicans are religious. First of all, that's a massive generalization. And let me be clear. 5 years ago, I would have thought the same exact thing. I used to hate Republicans, conservatives, specifically because me being agnostic at the time, which is similar to atheism, just with some extra steps. But me being agnostic at the time, I said to myself that, I am not religious. I cannot see myself aligning with a political party that is very religious, not understanding that I'm making some blanket generalization. And really, when people say stuff like this, it's usually they're talking from the perspective of Republicans are too Christian. Because that's really what they're talking about. They talk about Christianity. They're not going to mention, paganism, Islam, whatever other religion is out there. Their mind usually just goes towards Christianity. And so that was, and that is a misconception, is that all Republicans are religious, or in this case, specifically Christian. Now, I will say that if you are a Christian and you're actually following the Word of God, you will naturally start to align more with the right, because progressivism is not compatible with the God of the Bible. It's just not. Sorry, progressive Christians. Hello. It is not. Okay. Marxism is incompatible with the gospel. That's just how it is. So you will naturally see that Christianity tends to be on one side of the political aisle, even if you're not explicitly adopting the Republican worldview. Okay. But it'll be more on the right. But to this person's point, it reminds me of how much I like to troll people sometimes, all the time. I'm a little bit of a troll. I can be a little snarky. And whenever I make a video that is specific to religion or objective truth, objective morality, things like that, without fail, I will always have some people in the comment section writing these huge 4-paragraph long dissertations about their Christian derangement syndrome, and I'll read it. I'll read it. And I'll usually respond with something to the effect of, wow, what a religious thing to say from a non-religious person. Because that's the thing that I think people fail to understand, is that secularists, atheists, agnostics, humanists, whatever label you want to apply, Marxists, they are religious in their own right. They just worship a different God. I worship the creator of the universe, and you worship yourself. Whatever you want to do, however you want to live your life, with no regard for anyone else, because it's all based on your own selfish desires. Let's be honest. This is really what it boils down to, is you don't want to adhere to an objective moral code because you just want to live your life. And hey, at least be intellectually honest about it, and I would have more respect for you. I would. But we always have to beat around the bush because that just sounds really harsh, right? It sounds harsh for me to imply that people just want to live their lives out of pure selfishness with no regard for the consequences of certain ideas and behaviors in society. I find when people criticize the religious right, their arguments are very flawed in the sense that they fail to recognize that the criticisms they have towards the religious right can literally be applied to anyone else. So if the complaint is, the religious right just wants to impose their moral and ethical worldview on the rest of civilization, well, duh. So does a government of secularists or humanists, or if you had a government of Muslims, they would be doing the same exact thing. This is just how it is. There are a lot of laws that are currently in place right now that don't align with my worldview as a Christian. Why are my tax dollars funding baby sacrifice under the guise of healthcare? Okay, so it's really not a matter of should we legislate moral principles. It's a matter of which moral principles do you want to legislate, and whether or not people want to accept this reality. This country was founded in the direction of Christian ethics. Okay? Again, you can have all the Christian derangement syndrome you want, but in any case, a lot of these people who make these complaints are benefiting from the residual effects of Christianity, whether you like it or not. Okay? So, now, where am I going with this? I don't know if you've looked outside recently, but our culture, our civilization is about to go off a cliff, okay? We have, in my estimation, maybe 40 to 50 years before we go off that cliff. Now, some of you will be long gone. You'll be dead. But if you have kids or grandkids, this might be a conversation that you should perhaps consider more, as opposed to dismissing it outright as religious propaganda. Because what happens when a civilization falls is that another civilization steps in to stabilize the chaos. And that civilization is going to be Islam. Sorry. Those are the options that you have. You either turn back to Christ or you succumb to Islam. Those are the only options. Yeah. You can disagree with me all you want. That's just the reality. And by the way, this is observable. Like if you look throughout history, all of the nations that were originally Christian ended up being Islamic nations. And that wasn't by a natural conversion. That was through a slow deterioration of civilization. When civilizations are at its weakest, that's when another civilization who is more stable comes in to clean up the mess. I mean, think about it for a second. Just think about it objectively. Hear me out. In America, we promote abortion, homosexuality, transgenderism, feminism, boss babe, work until you're 40, and then by the time you're 40, you can't find a man to settle down with, thus you're unable to have babies type of lifestyle. Just these 4 things that I mentioned are a way to slowly stifle the birth rate in America. Now, in contrast, if you look at the Muslim community, they're having more babies. They're having more babies. And they're not in favor of LGBT stuff, by the way. They're not in favor of abortions. They're not in favor of women having rights. Okay. So all your boss babe stuff, yeah, get that out of your system now, because you're not going to have it at some point. But in contrast, they definitely seem like they have societal guardrails. Now, you may disagree with where those guardrails are heading. And like I said, Sharia law is no joke. I would not like to live under that. I hope Jesus comes back before that happens. But in any case, they have societal guardrails because they're trying to bring society in one particular direction. And that is why our founding fathers created the Constitution with a particular worldview in mind. And I'm telling you right now, it was not secularist globalism. Nope, it was not. It wasn't. The thing that I find ironic, though, is that whenever people like this try to criticize the religious right for imposing their religious beliefs on society, the irony is that their criticism fails to address whether or not that particular worldview is incorrect. It doesn't actually say whether or not the Christians believe something that is true and good for society. They're just trying to convey that they don't like it, which, okay, fine, fair enough. You don't like it. So I bring the question back to you. Which moral and ethical framework should we as American citizens be following? Because as I said, you're not going to be able to get rid of the government. Never going to happen. Get used to it. And regardless of who's in government, you're always going to have someone trying to impose their worldview on the rest of society. And so if you disagree with the religious right doing that, or in this case, more specifically, we're talking about Christians, because that's what they always talk about, then tell me, what standard should we live by? Now, this is really important, because a lot of people seem to think that morality is relative and it's just a matter of personal opinion. And if that's the case, then first of all, I want you nowhere near government, because your belief implies that the actions of tyrants and saints hold the same weight. Okay. I want you nowhere near government. Absolutely not. Okay. But more importantly, if there isn't some objective, unchanging, transcendent standard that tells us what is good outside of our own personal opinion, then ultimately what we're admitting here is that we're just making rules up along the way to make us feel better about a meaningless existence. I can see why society is about to fall off a cliff. Yeah. I mean, we're working towards an ultimate void of nothingness. Again, if we're all going to die someday, we're all just going to end up in the ground and turning into worm food, then really what we do right now doesn't actually matter. I mean, let's be real. You can say that your human life has value based on your personal opinion, but objectively speaking, what's the reason for existence, right? I wonder who else thought of that, thought of humans in that way, huh? There's a name off the top of my head I can't remember. Interesting. And by the way, when I say objective, what I mean by that is it doesn't require you to agree with it or acknowledge it in order for it to be true. So in other words, if I say that this is a cell phone and you say actually it's a toaster, it doesn't make it a toaster. It just means that you're denying the truth because it's inconvenient for you. Okay? So that's what I mean. Show me the objective standard of good, the objective moral and ethical framework we should live by. And let's finish this debate, because I'm tired of seeing it. Well, actually, I'm not tired. There's a part of me that actually enjoys the challenge of having these discussions. As I said, I used to think exactly like these people. I used to make all of these blanket generalizations about the right or conservatives. And again, like I said, I am independent. I am not affiliated with any particular party. But ultimately, my worldview comes from my religious belief in the same way that your worldview comes from your not religious belief. So we're not that different, except that we can't both be right. So I'm going to leave it to you guys to decide. All right. Since I've already rambled a little bit too much on this, but I hope you guys found some value in this conversation. I would love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments section below. But like I said, guys, we got to figure this out, because if you guys thought living under Christian ethics was oppressive, you haven't, oh my goodness, you are not cut out for the future, let me tell you. But yeah, my name is Vanessa. You may know me as Gothix, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.